welcome to a brand new Nerds United on YouTube. My name is Greg Mahochko, and wait a minute, I got confused. This fellow over here, he is the co-host of the year, Mike Luther. Hello, Mike.
Oh, hello, Greg.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I think my gym is now open 24 hours. I think. I might find out later tonight. Who knows?
That sounds like a horrible idea.
No, it's amazing. That's the best time to work out.
At like 11 o'clock?
11, 12, 1, yeah.
When nobody else is there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Free reign of the place. His name is Mike.
Yes.
I don't know. I can't go with you.
I mean, you could technically.
I'm not going to.
But you probably, yeah.
I am not going to. It, not for nothing, doesn't interest me, Mike. Doesn't interest me at all.
Hey, you're married. You got one kid right now. You got kids on the way, or more. You'll have more kids.
Mike, did you just spill the tea?
No, I'm saying you'll have more kids. Like you talked about, your wife is pregnant, so you'll have more kids together.
Mike, you just said kids on the way, Mike.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many kids you're going to have. You might want to have more in the future. Who knows?
Mike, do you know something I don't know?
Am I wrong? You might want to have more in the future, right?
All right. So let's just put it out on Front Street right now. Thanks to Mike. Yes, the Mrs. Nerd United is pregnant. Yes, there are in the oven. So if the podcast ends in March, you'll know why. It's because I have no more time to sit here and talk about silly shit with Mike.
That or like we won't be able to talk about anything new. It'll just be stuff that you've seen 5 years ago. And then just every week we just talk about it again.
Mike, did you see Thor Ragnarok? That was great.
Right. Right.
Oh, it'll
be all based. Yeah, it'll be all based on kid stuff. It'll be us talking about Paw Patrol or whatever.
I'm excited. In the podcast, we get to talk about Thomas, the tank engine or whatever it is.
Yes.
Because that's going to be horrifying. And I'm excited to go. We'll save that one for the podcast. We do have a very interesting topic this week. It was in the news. The legendary writer and author and many more ers on his resume, Alan Moore, did a rare interview ahead of his new movie coming out. I don't know if it's coming out just in England or worldwide distribution. I don't know. It's called The Show. Haven't seen the trailer, just a few images. Looks kind of goofy. Looks kind of like something that will be right up our alley. But he made headlines, Mike, for some of the comments that he made. Now, he's been pretty outspoken as far as, he didn't think Watchmen would ever be able to be made into a movie. And some of his other adaptations, V for Vendetta, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Some of his properties, The Killing Joke, which was made into an animated movie, but some people say that, the movie The Joker or maybe not The Joker, whatever, Joaquin Phoenix's movie from last year might have had some pieces taken from The Killing Joke. And he's just not a fan of the medium anymore, Mike. It's a medium that made him I don't want to say a household name, but certainly among like people like us, made Alan Moore a household name, much in the way of like an Alex Ross or maybe a Scott Snyder, Steve Ditko, Jack King Kirby. He's here we go, Denny O'Neil. He's in our realm. He's a king of sorts, and for him to come out and say, I don't want to say that he made any really bombastic claims about comic books, but he was outspoken. Mike, by the way, the exclusive interview you can be found on deadline.com. We'll share the link with the video in case you haven't read it all. I read most of the article, Mike, and What was your takeaway?
He seems to kind of contradict himself a little bit. Like you mentioned, he's known for Watchmen, V for Vendetta, Killing Joke, the three that I can think of offhand that you mentioned. But then in the same article, he talks about how when he first started, comic books were a medium for children. Okay, if that's true, then there's no child, I don't think, that should be reading Watchmen or V for Vendetta or, Batman Killing Joke. So I don't understand what he's trying to get at there, because if it's for children, then he shouldn't have written those graphic novels.
So I don't want to interrupt. I do want to interject his direct quote. He says, "I'm not so interested in comics anymore. I don't want anything to do with them." He says, "I had been doing comics for 40-something years when I finally retired, which was back in 2018. When I entered the comics industry, the big attraction was that this was a medium that was vulgar." Which, hang with me now. He says it had been created to entertain working class people, particularly children. The way that the industry has changed, it's graphic novels now. It's entirely priced for an audience of middle class people. I have nothing against middle class people, but it wasn't meant to be a medium for middle-aged hobbyists. It was meant to be a medium for people who haven't got much money. Let's break down that paragraph. We're not going to, folks. We're not going to paragraph by paragraph, break down, react to this entire conversation, because they do talk about his upcoming project, the show, and other things. But I think, I think that retailers, brick and mortar retailers, believe this as well, that comic books are, by and large, single issues are $3.99. I've been reading Convergence. I think I told you that's maybe $4.99, or maybe Heroes in Crisis was $4.99 for a limited series type of thing. But for single issues, 20, 22 pages, whatever it is. So I think he does have a point that they are, and I can't put a blanket and be like every comic, but certainly the big two, the Marvel and the DC comics probably are overpriced and pricing out, when you were, like when we were kids, you could go on a spinner rack in a grocery store if you had fortunate, good fortune to see something like that, and you could buy a comic book for, I remember, as low as 99 cents or maybe even $1.99. And maybe it's just, growing with inflation. I don't know, but I do think that Moore has a point that, you go back 40 years, even before that, with the comics, maybe when the medium first began, maybe not 80 years ago, with like the Action Comics #1, although that might have been a nickel or dime type of thing, but they were, you have a little bit of change. If you're a kid, you run up to the corner store, the 5 and dime, whatever it is, and boom, you get a comic book. So I think he has a point, and he does acknowledge a little bit of, responsibility in, like the Watchmen, as you mentioned, which is not something that kids should be reading. It is a graphic novel. Or, obviously when it originally came out, it was individual issues. He does take a little bit of responsibility for the maturation. I think I'm going with it, that's a word. But, the evolution of the industry. But I was thinking about this, like looking at most of the books that I have in my comic book room, which is a topic for another day, and like it is in the process of being cleaned and sorted. I'm like, if it's from the last 15, 20 years, I don't feel my son's almost 5. He can't read yet, but he can certainly look at the pictures. But I can't hand him something because I feel like the violence is, I mean, even like a Marvel or DC book, you on occasion do see some gunshots, decapitations, things like that, depending on the story and the character. But you can go back 40 years ago, or you don't even have to go back that far, but maybe 30 years when, the comic book code, code of ethics or whatever, always had, everything had the stamp of the code on it. Like I felt like if I had more of those, we'll call them golden or silver age stories, that I could hand them to my son and be like, well, flip through this, look at the pictures, but I don't have quite enough of that. I feel like the industry evolved, aged with the people who are like our age, I'm talking an awful lot, Mike. I'll shut up and you can react.
No, I agree with you. First of all, as far as the comic photo authority, we're gonna have to do a whole separate video on that one day because that's a big long story. But I understand what you're saying. But and one thing you brought up that I was gonna say is we grew up with the comic books, so obviously the comic books had to grow up with us. Can you find comic books out there that are for children? Of course you can. Are they in your comic book room? No, because when you bought them, you didn't buy them for kids. You bought them for yourself.
True.
That's why you don't find any comic books for kids in that room. If you were to go to, yeah, but
I will say, I have a few that I gave my son that were specifically for kids. They're ones that I bought at Twilight Comics, Swansea, Illinois. This time of year over the last few years that are like Halloween books. So there's like Donald Duck and what else? Skylanders. Things that are, yeah, there are books that are geared to children. But by and large, they're not. They're geared to 20s and 30s people, and the industry knows that, I think, and so they price them accordingly. They price them for people who have a little bit of expendable cash laying around.
Yeah, it all goes with supply and demand. I mean, the demand comes from people our age, or let's say 20s and 30s and 40s, let's say, hopefully. That those are the people that want comic books. So obviously, the comic book writers and artists are going to gear their stories towards that. If it was 10-year-olds wanting comic books or 5-year-olds wanting comic books, they'd be completely different.
And I would go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead. Good.
I was gonna say I would be happy, and that's the thing is, I love going to Twilight Comics, Swansea, Illinois. I love helping them pay a portion of a bill, every few weeks, something like that, and they know that my buying tastes have changed. It used to be like I'm gonna go in and get, like all the Batmans, all the, I had at one point I think I had 6 different books that I had them pull for me every month, and that's not the case anymore. But like Tim sent me a message earlier this week, and he says, "Hey, I know that you're saving money for obvious reasons, but we got these 2 books, and they were 2 of those Brad Meltzer." I'm not going to try to pronounce the artist name, although I wish I could. I don't have it in front of me, but Chris Eliopoulos. I apologize if I'm wrong, but they were the Ordinary People Change the World books, and it was Ben Franklin and Anne Frank. So I said, yeah, kids books always, but if there were stories that were directed to kids, that were like Spider-Man, Superboy, Robin, or Teen Titans, and maybe Teen Titans or Teen Titans Go, if they've ever done a comic book with art similar to, like the cartoons, I'd be interested in buying those. And I think maybe it's just me, maybe it's because, as far as trying to protect my child and not expose him to too much too soon, I don't want to just be like, here, Watchmen, enjoy, because he's not smart enough for that. He's not, I love him to death. He's not smart enough to, read and understand and appreciate, some of the Green Lantern, Batman, things like that, that I have. Captain America. I wouldn't hand him, Marvel Civil War. He's not at that level. But if I just gave him a picture book, let the pictures tell the stories. Sorry, writers, you're just going to have to, frame out little to no dialogue, but, something that kids can grasp, and maybe I'm being too protective of him, but as he got older, as he got to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, where he's reading, then, Spider-Man, I think, is a great entry, is a great character to introduce kids to comic books. So we sat there reading Donald Duck Halloween stories and like a Batman Halloween book that's in the art style of Batman the Animated Series, things like that I don't have any problem showing him, where, I'm not going to, I don't want to show him stuff with a lot of blood. I don't want to show him with, voluptuous ladies.
Right.
I don't, I'm trying to be a good parent, damn it. And as for all of the enjoyment that I get out of comics, I'm not really ready to pass certain books onto him. And so I think that there's, I was going to say, I think there's just a market for, books that parents can buy for their children to get them started. And hopefully, they can become lifelong comic fans like we are.
Yeah, and then they start their own podcast.
Probably be more popular than ours. 20 years down the road, my son's going to take him. I'm going to hand him the reins to Nerds United, and he's going to make millions.
Right.
So
20 years, they'll be on episode 300.
I was not prepared for that at all. Back to the interview real quick, and the unfortunate part about Zoom meetings is I can't really tell how long we've been recording, so I don't want to talk for an hour and a half about this. But the one of the follow-up questions was, or statements was that the deadline asked about comic book movies, and as we mentioned before, and as everybody watching this should know, Alan Moore did write Killing Joke, but he says that 3 weeks after that he disowned it. It was too much. It took away some of the innocence of like Batman, which I think the 80s. So I think by the time some of the innocence had already been lost. But they asked him about comic book movies. He says the last comic book movie that he saw was 1989's Keaton Batman movie. And says, he calls comic book movies a blight on cinema. I mean, we love them, so we're a little biased in opposite regard. But I guess kudos to the man who dislikes the notion of it so much that he's not even willing to get paid on his creations, making, coming to life on the big screen. So again, I'll say this, Alan Moore, we might disagree on some things, but I won't question his integrity, I don't think.
No, but I just find it like he does make money off of his Killing Joke, like the novel, right?
Probably on the printed side. I mean,
yeah.
His response as far as disowning it, like I don't think he said, I never want to make a penny on this, but I know like from Watchmen, V for Vendetta, the Killing Joke animated that they did recently, they haven't sent him any checks, and I think you probably sent him back based on what I gather from him. So
he teach his own, I guess.
I mean, I think even if you don't agree, and he didn't even have his name in the credits for Watchmen, both the movie or the HBO show last year. If you make something that let's face it, the graphic novel, comic book, however you want, is seminal. I mean, people love to read Watchmen. It's very layered. It's very complex, but people love it. And so I think that in that he should take a lot of pride. And I guess when they said, "Hey, we want to take this and turn it into a movie," kudos to him for being like, "I don't want those millions of dollars." I don't think I have the strength. I mean, because I think at some point your pride has to, your ego says, "Yeah, that's mine," and I don't care if you pick up the third act. That I want 20 million just so you can put my name on there, or just to give me the credit that I'm owed. I don't know how it could have gone down, but I don't disrespect him for not taking their money. So
I don't think the studio probably minded either, because like you said, that's just less money they have to give somebody.
Exactly. All right, Mike, what are we talking about this week on the podcast? If people want
we got some news to talk. Yeah, we got some news to talk about. Like you said, the Thomas the Tank, other stuff I forget, and then we're going to do talk about a little battle in the book, of course, the Book of Forgettable Superheroes, and then we have
forgettable.
Unforgettable. Did I say forget? I probably said forgettable,
but they're not.
I remembered them. Book of Regrettable Superheroes, and then we have a little battle, three fight battle.
I had a plan that it's not going to work since it's on audio, not the video format. But I was going to wear 3 shirts, and each shirt was because I have Green Lantern and Superman, and my wife has a Captain America shirt. It's not going to fit me no matter what. I'm a little too robust.
Muscular.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wide-shouldered.
Wide-shouldered, yes.
But I was going to be like, yeah, there goes Green Lantern. All right, there goes Captain America. This Superman stands tall.
Just keep the shirt you have on, and that because that person's going to win anyway. So,
will he though? Will he, Mike?
He'll win his battle. That's for sure.
We'll find out.
I mean, I was going to say, tune in.
We'll find out, or one of us will hang up.
Right.
All right, everybody. We thank you so much for participating, watching this video. If you like what we're doing, subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when we upload a new video. If you don't like what we're doing, hit the comment section. Tell us why. We have thick skin. We'd like to know how we can make this show more enjoyable for you, unless that means a ton of graphics and things like that I don't know how to do. So those are our options. What we can do now, or what we can do just maybe slightly better. So, but check us out on the podcast, jittermonkey.com, and search Nerds United on all of your favorite podcast platforms. He is the dashing and debonair co-host of the year, Mike Luther. My name is Greg Mahochko. We are Nerds United on YouTube, and we remind you to be kind
and rewind.